Okay, I'm live. I'm live. Get the notification sent out. I know this is a little bit earlier than even yesterday, so I'm not sure how many early risers there are going to be, especially if you're on the West Coast this morning. East Coast, you're doing okay. It's what is it here? 11:30 here on the old Atlantic coast, I should say. All right. All right, that's good there. That's good there. Now, let's get yeah, let's talk about because it's all about the fear and hype, right? So let's talk about because we were kind of well, I was, and of course the folks that were joined in the chat yesterday were kind of referencing and touching down on the big anti-mask protest movement in Quebec, and very very proud to see, like I said yesterday, very proud to see the fine folks of Quebec out there standing up for their rights and freedoms and their liberty. It's really impressive to see such large gatherings of people who are willing to do that kind of a thing. Because sadly, unfortunately, and dishearteningly, I've come to expect most Canadians to just sit down or sit back or roll over and play dead when the authoritarians come a knocking, right? So, like I say, real happy to see that hashtag not all Canadians, not all, and definitely not in Quebec. The people of Quebec, or like I say, at least a substantial portion of them, are showing the resiliency. You know, it's that revolutionary spirit is still strong. It's still part of the culture of Quebec, which is an impressive thing, right? Anyways, let me see if anyone's nobody here yet. But anyways, so I'm going to start with this first article. This is going to be referencing Quebec. Another CBC hit piece, of course. It's always the same. Don't the hacks at CBC get tired of insulting people who are challenging government? That's the thing. It's like the insanity. I touched down on this, of course, yesterday in the stream as well. It's like the whole point of having like news media or journalists, like is to challenge the political establishment or the political class, the ruling class. It's to be adversarial. That's the whole point of having these media or these news organizations, right? And especially to have a national broadcaster where the taxpayers, we are forced to pay for them. And the whole point is why there's even the pretense, although I didn't sign any contract, did you? Of course we didn't. But the pretense of it is, yes, this is so vitally important to hold government to account that we just can't rely in private sector hands. No, we need a concerted effort Canada-wide from coast to coast to coast to cover all these things that the political class are doing, right? To keep that watchful eye, right? To be what, the fourth estate, I believe they call themselves, or fifth estate, whatever the hell they want to call themselves. Basically, though, to be not just the adversaries to government, but to be constantly poking and prodding and finding out what the hell is government doing and pushing back against them. So when they spew the rhetoric, the politicians, because they love using that bullshit rhetoric and lies and soothing you with at falsehoods, but they sound good, right? The point of the media, though, is to say, no, I'm not falling for that nonsense, and to keep pushing back, to use the Socratic method, to constantly be trying to dig down and get to the truth. That is the point, supposedly, or supposed to be, of the media. But no, all they do today, and in particular, the CBC, the rest of the established media, in particular, those who have been bailed out, once again, to the tune of $600 million by the Trudeau Liberals, substantial portion of them are unwilling to challenge the ruling class or the establishment in terms of politics in this country. But CBC is probably the worst of the worst in Canada because, once again, you have one job, CBC, one job you have to do, and that's to hold big government to account. But you're constantly using that $1 billion+ of revenue that you confiscate from the Canadian taxpayers. And I hate the term taxpayers, not like Canadians choose to pay taxes, right? Tax serfs, right? But basically to use that and for not to hold government to account, but to propagandize and use government rhetoric to trick the Canadian people into believing that these are just their omnipotent or benevolent overlords that just want to do the right thing for the Canadian people. Like, that's so much feeling on so many levels. But anyways, let's get to this article. So as you can see, it's Montreal analysis. As cases soar, Quebec's premier must confront a health crisis and fraying social bonds. Confusion greets new health rules while anti-mask movement vows to continue protesting. So really happy to hear that they're not giving up the fight. Not yet. And good thing, because persistence is key, because that's one thing about the hacks in the media, the establishment, the ruling class, the authoritarian collectivists. Yeah, they know they have to be relentless in their pursuits. They have to keep hammering away, keep chiseling away at you till eventually they knock you down and you just submit or comply. But no, the only thing that you have to push back against that is your resiliency and you're willing to stand firm. This is being reported by Jonathan Montpetit. He's petite. My petite. I don't know. Whatever. October 2nd, 2020. He's small. Oh, petite. I know. That's what it's supposed to mean, right? Anyways. Most Quebecers began a 28-day quasi-quarantine period on Thursday, right? Yeah, Quebec's being placed into, was Jacinda Ardern talking with the Bloc Quebecois fucking guy, because they seem to have this same strategy. They're just going to fucking beat people into submission and prevent even one case from happening. Yeah, like that's going to happen. Meanwhile, you're squashing and destroying any semblance of freedom and liberty in that province or like in that country. But yeah, you're just going to do that for what? And once again, it's going to prove that it's not going to be effective in any way. In a state of confusion about what suddenly they aren't allowed to do. Yeah. Let me start this again. Most Quebecers began a 28-day quasi-quarantine period on Thursday in a state of confusion about what suddenly they aren't allowed to do, right? Think about it. Aren't allowed to do. Government is literally supposed to be there. Even the pretense for minarchists or people that believe in the classical liberal pretense or reasoning behind why we have governments, or even conservatism, right? It's supposed to be like a limited, like it's there to protect and defend your rights, freedoms, and liberties. That's all it's there for. It's not supposed to be there to be your authoritarian mommy or daddy to tell you how to fucking live your life or what to do socially or economically. That is not the point of government. But this is what the world we live in today. And most people, because they've been indoctrinated into the faith, the cult of statism, most people are coming out of the academic institutions these days believing that government is there to grant them their rights or their freedoms or their liberties, which once again, no. Government is only supposed to be there to defend and protect those rights, freedoms, not to be acting as your surrogate mommy or daddy. But look, like this is such a sad. It just shows not just the failure of so many people in their personal lives in terms of the family unit and the destruction of that, but extrapolate that and expand that out onto the societal scale. And that's what you have. It's a dysfunctional fucking family that's basically just like in your typical family household that you're seeing these days, which represents a larger and larger portion of it, where mom and dad's divorced, living in two different homes. They both want to set up their own kind of ways to rule, to dictate to the kids, but it's nonstop hypocrisy. Tell the kids don't do this while they're doing the exact same things that they tell their kids not to do, right? And nonstop hypocrisy and massive where the kids are like, well, I don't know, what's right, what's wrong anymore, because I just don't I don't get a good understanding what is right or wrong, or can we at least show some unity where we believe in something that resembles a unifying thing that can bring us together? You don't have to agree on everything, but can we agree on anything these days? Doesn't seem to be. Everything is politicized, and everything seems to be about divide and conquer. And that, like I say, that's taken place on small scale in the family unit and on the large scale in the society at large. Anyway, the 5 million people living in Quebec's COVID-19 red zones, which include Montreal and Quebec City, have been ordered to keep their interactions with friends and family to a bare minimum. Unfucking believable, right? Like, what the hell? I just don't know. Sad that anybody would accept that, right? But the wording of the new rules is hazy in places and has generated a litany of questions about what possible exceptions might apply. A news conference where Premier Francois Legault was trying to announce financial help for businesses was derailed Thursday by highly specific questions from journalists. Highly specific questions from journalists. That's good, isn't it? Should be. Can two mothers go for a walk together if their children are in strollers? Can children of different families, but in the same class, play with each other in the park? Can two people be in the same car together? These are important questions, right? And the fact that you have to ask that, like permission from like big government, like once again, that's just a sad reflection of the destruction of the culture of this country, no matter what province you're talking about. But like I say, at least there's some people that they're challenging that premise. Exasperated, Legault at what point simply urged people to use their common sense. Right. Doesn't he realize that it doesn't seem to be very common these days? In less noticed news from Thursday, a 38-year-old man was charged with assaulting a bus driver in Terrebonne, Quebec, after he was asked to put on a mask. The driver was treated in hospital for a broken jaw. I would suggest, well, I mean, it might very well be the case, but I would suggest there was a little bit more to it than the bus driver saying, hey, can you please put on a mask? And then the guy, punched him in the fucking jaw. I think there's probably a little bit more nuance or details to that story, but, that's not the way CBC functions, right? They want you to think in a certain way, and that's the way they write, for you to think in that way, right? Since May, at least 7 Quebecers who oppose public health rules have been arrested for allegedly making violent threats online, or in one case, over the phone. That's the big thing now, too, is all about threats. Ooh, it's a threat. It's a threat. Once again, whatever happened to freedom of speech? Whatever happened to, was that threat actually something that implied a direct and imminent threat? Because that's, again, what does a threat entail here? What are we talking about? Did some say you're a fucking idiot and you should be shot and pissed on? Let's say that's an expression. That is not to be accepted as someone threatened to go and shoot and piss on you, right? Well, this is the problem today is so many things are criminalized. Even people saying words, even if they're words that you might say, ooh, that's a bad thing to say. Listen, they're going to think it in their fucking mind. Even if you put duct tape on everybody's fucking mouth, it's not going to prevent them from thinking the exact same things. You just want polite society to pretend that everything is normal. But like I say, the only way you can do that is if you duct tape everyone's mouth and plug everyone's ears and I don't know, put a blindfold on, right? Well, that's not, like I say, that's not representative of real society. So actually hearing the grievance of these people is actually important. Stop labeling people as, oh, that's hate speech, or that's a threat. Oh, we better criminalize people that are pushed back against government, because government is the biggest fucking threat to every one of our lives, both socially, economically, and physically. The enforcers of the state have caused more widespread violence and bullying tactics towards the people than any petty thief or criminal in this country, or protester or activist could ever do. Actually, not just an individual, even a group of protesters. Like I say, anything they do pales in comparison to what the state represents in terms of threats, violence, coercion, or theft. Okay, what do we got here? This mix of confusion and violence on display Thursday highlights the criminal justice, this mix of confusion and violence on display Thursday highlights the critical juncture confronting the province and its premier. Yes, stop being a bunch of bullies. Stop trying to dictate, control people's lives, because people are definitely going to get more frustrated, and their pent-up frustrations are going to definitely translate into using defensive force, right, as a retaliatory measure against what's being imposed on them. This is the fucking problem that these hacks in the media keep overlooking. You keep wanting to lay this political cover for everything that government does, all the shit that they're trying to impose on the people, the destruction they're causing to their social and economic bottom line, the millions of Canadians who have been put out of jobs. And think about what that's doing in households. How many fucking families are going through hell right now because things weren't so great already prior to the COVID outbreak, right? And people were already mired in a lot of shit. And we're hearing about suicide rates going up, mental health being a massive spike now in mental health related cases and issues. I mean, come on. People who can't even get their surgeries, you think about what that's doing in households, and people are worried to death about what's going to happen to their family member that can't get that fucking surgery that they need to keep themselves alive. Think about what all this shit's doing. Government is all imposing all that on people. And then when people push back or retaliate defensively against this kind of stuff, the media, rather than saying government shouldn't be imposing their shit, should be standing up in defense of the rights, freedom, and liberties of Canadians. No, media, the CBC hacks are pointing to the people who are standing in defense of their liberties and pointing them as being the bad actors or the violent undertone or culture of society. What the fuck? This is a problem I take huge issue with. And like I say, CBC is a detriment. If the hacks at CBC even did 1/10 of their job in terms of holding government to account and being honest and forthright with the Canadian people, well then, like I say, you'd have a whole lot more than just a small subsect of people in society like you or I that are talking about these issues critically. You'd have a lot more Canadians who would be properly informed and be like, oh, fuck, now that I realize what the hell is going on around here, maybe I'll become much more active and participatory in this kind of activism or pushback against big government. But nope, that silent majority, they still remain silent. Why? Because the CBC is constantly inundating with that silent majority with bullshit like this. So making the people out to be the bad actors in society, the ones who want to stand up for freedom and liberty, right? So now, rather than people look at the government and say, get the fuck out of my way, you don't run me, you don't own me. Now it's people like, hey, spy on your neighbor or rat out your neighbor or end relationships with your friends or members of your family. This cancel culture bullshit if they don't agree with you politically or based along ideological lines, right? Dang, why is it phone? I'm gonna have to unplug my phone every time. That's a different one. All right, okay. Anyway, so let's get to what's next. Oh, I hope it's not one of them stupid bill collector people for the other guy. Oh no, it's for me actually. That's good. That's great. That's awesome. That is excellent. I'll have to make sure to actually just one sec there, folks. Yeah. Okay. Well, actually, no. I'll get it here in a bit. All right. Where are we at? On the one. Okay. Stop. Enough already. Okay. Okay. We're good to go now. On the one hand, the province is yet again dealing with the public health crisis brought on by the galloping number of new COVID cases. Sorry. On the one hand, the province is yet again dealing with the public health crisis brought on by the galloping number of new cases of COVID-19. Hospitalizations, too, have started to rise sharply. 16 more deaths were announced Thursday. Experts are warning that unless Quebecers put their social lives on pause, the second wave could be as bad as the first. So once again, oh, come on. What sharply on the right? 16 more deaths were announced Thursday. Like deaths. What's this for the entire province? That's the thing. I should have done this before I even read this article. See how many died just from regular causes. Because people die every fucking day. Every day people die. And 16, does that sound like some, we got to go into lockdowns again, right? 16 more people. And I mean, feel bad for those people. But like I say, people fucking die every day. And what does this mean anyways? What does locking down? As we see, lockdowns already happened. People died. So lockdowns don't prevent deaths, do they? So once again, you're making this kind of measurement that how much harm do you want to cause to some people and the pretense, or at least under the false delusion of protecting some others, which once again, you're not going to protect those. It's up to those others that you're supposedly fearful for or want to protect. It's how about they pick up that mantle of personal responsibility and protect them goddamn selves, right? Or the people who are in their care or taking care of these people, taking that responsibility, right? Stop trying to get the rest of society to subject themselves to this goddamn top-down authoritarianism and tactics to supposedly protect some vulnerable members in society. Once again, personal responsibility. That's what it's supposed to be. We are all adults at the end of the day, right? Experts are warned that unless Quebecers put their social lives on pause, the second wave could... on pause? It's been... Okay. The first case in Canada was reported back in fucking January. Okay? It is now October. Yeah. So what are we, 9 months now? Damn near 9 months into this shit. It was supposed to be 2 weeks just to tamp down, to flatten the curve. 9 months later, they're saying, and this is the beginning of the so-called second wave, man. And even at the very beginning of this so-called second wave, be scary. Be scared. No, they're saying, no, fuck the 9 months of hell that you've had to go through or endure already. No, you need to step up your efforts once again and suffer a little bit more. Like they want, that's all that these fucking hacks seem to want to do. They want to see certain people, certain members of society, they want to see you suffering as long as humanly possible. Once again, based on this false premise or pretense that it's to protect what? The greater good? Well, the greater good is the one that's suffering. That's the greater good are the millions and millions of Canadians are suffering because of government mandates, edicts, and these lockdowns, right? That are being forcibly imposed upon them. That's who's suffering. So the other people that are suffering because they contacted COVID or have had other comorbidities or really poor health. And some of them, like I said, I feel bad. Others, yeah, maybe you should fucking take a little bit better care of yourself. If something like COVID is so detrimental to you, and like I say, unless like it's an excuse that you're just, in the most frail condition, like some of these people in long-term care facilities totally understand. But some people that they're trying to say, like people in their 20s or 30s or 40s, even some of these people are well, if you're worried about them being harmed by it, then once again, just look at the facts, look at what the kind of people or who are susceptible to being harmed gravely by this virus. It's like people, for the most part, unless they're old and frail and just part of what it is to be on that, that portion of the life cycle as a human being, if you're younger, then, it's people who haven't done it, who have not been proactive in taking care of themselves. Let's say you're obese by, a couple 100 pounds or whatever, right? Or you're a big time chain smoker and you can barely breathe as it is now because your lung is fucking just saturated with all those chemicals and shit, right? It's like these are people who have proven that they don't give a fuck about themselves. The government's going to pretend I care more about these people than they do themselves, and I'm going to shut down the rest of society. I'm going to cause social and economic harms on a lot of people to protect these people that don't even have the goddamn personal responsibility to do it for themselves, right? Once again, more bullshit, and as an excuse, more political cover that they're laying down right now to increase or ramp up more authoritarianism over the winter months, locking us down once again. Sad, but I'm glad to see, like I say, pretty sure there's lots of Quebecers today that are chomping at the bit, say, oh yeah, just go ahead and try it. And I'm seeing it. Like I say, real happy to see that. Wish more and more Canadians would start emulating or mirroring what the fine people in Quebec are doing right now in terms of at least getting out there and showing not just their resilience, but their ability to push back against these measures. On the other hand, there is evidence of a fledgling social crisis. Opposition to public health measures has grown significantly in recent months, fueled in large part by conspiracy theories. Of course, always, right? Always use the term conspiracy theories. Circulating online, according to Roxanne Martel-Perron, who heads education efforts for Montreal's Center for the Prevention of Radicalization Leading to Violence. Yeah, education efforts in Montreal Center. So these centers, yeah. So you just come straight out of some of these goddamn activist courses that are in the institutions and straight to these places, right? That's where they're being employed these days. When you would think, well, where the hell is a person that takes feminist studies or I don't know, whatever these fucking studies are, right? Is this is where they're going, into these Montreal Centers for the Prevention of Radicalization leading to Legault's government is sufficiently alarmed by this sentiment that it recorded a radio ad for CHOI-FM. There's a Radio X or whatever, right? Wait a minute. Alarmed by the sentiment that it recorded a radio ad for Choi FM, a Quebec City radio station whose on-air personalities routinely question public health rules and often repeat debunked theories about the virus. So I guess they're trying to change their minds, right? The ad urged listeners to get their information from trusted news sources as opposed to online conspiracy theorists. The station, though, refused to air the ad. That's awesome, actually. That's awesome that the station refused to air the ad. That's great. That's great because the government, the hacks in government, right? Trying to tell you, no, don't listen to anyone else. No, you listen to me and my media mouthpieces that parrot what I've got to say, right? It's like good for this radio station for refusing the ad. Once again, more respect. And I believe that's, like I say, not just called Choi FM, but I think they call it something X, right? But very nice, very nice. Very, like I say, we don't got much like that here in Canada. Well, you got the Canadian Libertarian, I guess. You got me, but I'm not really part of any news organization, and I'm a one-man band, to be honest with you. But I would love to have more of a scope, more of a widespread reach. I'd like to be able to have more people that I interact with. I try all the time, and like I say, I'm trying to reach out to more and more people all the time. But I wish I could have not just me personally, but have a much bigger presence, me and a few other peeps even that could make more of a stir, make more waves in this country, rather than like for myself, being watched or listened to by a few hundred people, right? It'd be nice to have thousands, maybe tens of thousands, heck, 100,000, even millions of Canadians that was actually privy to the kind of stuff people like myself say, or like the fine folks at this radio station apparently say. At least I don't know. I don't listen to them. It's a French station apparently, but I'm going to suggest if they're anti-big government and anti-authoritarian measures, I'd say there's at least something libertarian-ish about them, right? Maybe not. I don't, like I say, I can't speak with any genuine informed knowledge on what takes place on that radio station, so maybe I better withhold judgment. But like I say, at least from what I see, and the fact that CBC News is going after them and the political class going after them, well, that automatically lends a little bit of credibility for these folks in my eyes. Activists in the anti-mask movement are planning to continue holding protests in cities and towns around the province, which some elected leaders see as a provocation, given new public health rules. Well, what that says is you just got to put or hold up the sign Black Lives Matter, right? And you'll be fine. And then they won't be able to say nothing. Say, oh yeah, go ahead and protest, because certain people, it's completely fine for them to protest. But once again, if you're pushing back against big government and you're perceived as being, I don't know, right-wing or libertarian, what was the one they were trying to say? Libertarians, right-wing activists, or far, of course, they always use far-right evangelicals. Remember, they were trying to tie everyone in the basket of deplorables in Canada, the Canadian version of the black basket of deplorables, I guess, right? Wild, man. Wild, I tell you. While protests are still allowed under the rules, oh, they are. How very kind of them to allow protests. Once again, if you have to ask government permission to protest against government, once again, you've already accepted the slave psychology and the slave mentality. So there's not much hope for you at that point, right? Are allowed under the rules. They're allowed under the rules. Well, that's very kind of big government to allow people to protest. Jesus Christ, CBC. How pathetic can you get? This mon petit in terms of your critical thinking skills, right? Very petite. Very, very petite. Unbelievable. This oh my goodness, this is just wild to read. It's wild to read, man. Every protester must wear a mask, an unlikely scenario given that people behind the yeah, you must wear a mask. Meanwhile, your whole protest is the protest being forced to wear a mask. But make sure you wear your mask. Well, I'll still allow you to protest, but you make sure you're wearing a mask while you're out there protesting, wearing a mask. When these people write these articles, like I don't know how they do it. I can't imagine anyone that functions or works at the CBC that's not on some kind of prescription meds or goes home every night and douses down at least a couple bottles of wine or a fucking, a 40 of vodka or a case of beer or puffing the doobies or doing something to get them through to the next day. Because wow, I don't know. Like I say, one thing I'll always say is at least I don't live in these people's mind. Dang, to live in such a mind. Montreal Mayor Valérie Plante suggested the anti-maskers march in a potato field instead. Wait a minute. Potato field instead. Oh my God, this is fucking hilarious. Yeah. You anti-maskers, you should go protest in a potato field because there'll be a lot of people that'll be paying attention to you out there. Unbelievable, man. The MNA from Rimouski, Quebec. Rimouski. Harold Lebel urged organizers to call off a demonstration planned there for Saturday. Yeah. Give them the big double that, right? The climate is tense enough. It's not a good time to march through downtown Rimouski, Lebel said Wednesday. Screw you. We're not asking your permission, I guess is what these folks would probably be saying right now. Yeah. You don't seem to get how freedom works there. We don't ask your permission, right? Most anti-mask demonstrations have been fairly small to date, and support for pandemic conspiracy theories hovers just below 20%, according to a poll conducted in August for Montreal's La Presse newspaper, echoing other public opinion data. So once again, they're just going to say That's only a couple people. Don't pay attention to them. Hate on those folks. Yeah. Hey, join with us and bully them, right? Intimidate them. Make them shut down, sit up, and conform, right? Obey, right? That's what they're trying to get you to think like here. But once again, I've actually seen the videos. The media doesn't realize. See, that's the thing. When they're writing these articles, even though they are online, in reality, they're trying to reach out to the people that's part of their base, the established base of CBC acolytes or loyalists, right? Mostly a bunch of old people, right? But the internet, like I say, just go watch. If this was on CBC's YouTube channel, you'd see the younger people don't fall for none of this nonsense, or at least most of them to watch YouTube videos, right? And even on CBC's own videos, you'll see the thumbs down to thumbs up ratio is always, and I'm always impressed because that tells me that people who are online in the connected world, they completely understand this stuff, and they're showing. But see, CBC, like I say, they still cater to that large, substantial base of the ill-informed, like I say, the loyalists who still believe that CBC is like telling them the truth and being unbiased in the reporting. That's the people that they're trying to appeal to when they're putting these goddamn articles out. And they just seem to forget or just ignore the fact that, no, people like me are going to read them and point out the goddamn ridiculousness of what you're trying to present. And like I say, I'm glad to do it. I'm glad to do it. Okay. But there are signs that Legault's public health messaging isn't resonating as widely as it once did. Yeah, you better believe it. On the last day of August, Legault warned Quebecers that cases were creeping up because more people were ignoring public health rules. Is it maybe because they got to go to work? I mean, that's the thing. That, like, to use that as a blanket statement, that's why, right? It's just people are just being like Doug Ford, like Legault and Doug Ford. I mean, look at them actually. They seem like two dudes that probably have that same goddamn fucking mindset even. Like, they even kind of look like they'd probably get along in some way, don't they? Right? Although Legault's not quite as chunky, right, as Dougie is, but anyways, let me continue on here. He kept repeating his warning in the days after, calling on Quebecers to respect the guidelines out of a sense of solidarity. What, with big government? Yeah. Solidarity with big government. Not. The hope, of course, was that voluntary cooperation would make harsher measures unnecessary. Do as I say, or I'll have to, go get me a switch, right? That's how these fucks, like, Legault, he looks like he's a boomer, for sure. Go get me a switch. They're not doing what I tell them to do. And, of course, the other thing, not all once again, but the hypocrisy, too. They flout and taunt the fucking, or flout the rules all the fucking time. Well, I mean, come on. They're in government. They don't believe in genuine rules, right? But yeah, if you don't fucking follow every little order, mandate, or edict that they impose on you, right? It's like, well, we'll just have to come down heavier. We'll just have to hit you instead of a couple times. We're going to hit you a few more times. That should straighten you out. Yeah. Good job. A lot of boomers thought that way when they were raising their fucking kids too. And look at what they created in society. Yeah, that's why government is what it is. Yeah, just beating people into submission. And if you just hit them one more time, you just use a little bit more violence. If you just pound that shit into their head even harder, right? Like with a fucking big hammer or an axe, just keep hammering. Yeah. That person that you think you're going to end up with something remotely resembling a well-adjusted, peaceful, resilient member of society. No, you got someone that you broke badly. And the sad part is today is some of those broken people that have been broken down and beaten down badly are starting to stand up and retaliate against these motherfuckers. And they're like pissed off and scared to death of the fact that, oh shit, the chickens are finally coming home to roost, right? The chicks are finally coming home to roost or whatever. But yeah, that's the reality. Yeah. Trying to use top-down authoritarianism just like a parent, just like in society. Every time government or mommy or daddy tries to use violence, intimidation, might makes right as a means to an end. Yeah. Well, that's why you end up in a society today that is like it is. And be very thankful that the younger people haven't actually chosen to be nearly as violent as some of the old people that raised them were when they did so. Yeah. That is something that I'm very surprised to see, that all the people, and like I say, I'm just one person, right? But like I say, the chicks will come home to roost for a multitude of people. And that's what we're seeing in some of those increases in violence. It isn't just that COVID lockdowns. It's once again, if you put people that now have to be forced to live together that can't stand each other because they have such ideological differences, or don't accept the live, let live mentality, then yeah, you place more and more people under those constraints. Yeah, that's what you get, is definitely a rise in violence, force, intimidation, and political and civil strife. That's just reality. But once again, they just don't understand that. No, maybe try something different for once, but they don't understand, because all they know, like I said, it's that old saying is, if everything in society looks like a nail, well, I guess you better be a hammer, right? Or no, if all you've ever known is being a hammer, I guess everything in society better be a nail. That'd probably be a better or more apt analogy, right? But whereas during the spring lockdown, Quebecers rallied around the goals "Ça va bien aller" slogan, "It's going to be okay," his fall call for solidarity didn't have the same effect, because people realize he's full of shit. A poll released last week by public opinion firm, more polls. I'm so sick of everyone fucking using the pretense of a poll or a so-called expert to try to trick you into believing that you should never think anything outside of what the pollsters or the experts say. Yeah, independent or critical thought, not allowed. Not in Kanakistan, not in 2020. Found that 73% of Quebecers admitted to some slacking off when it came to following the rules, significantly higher than the national average of 63. That's not that much. And actually, of course. I mean, first of all, that's just on the kind of people, and think about it. That's just from the kind of people who would be willing to take these goddamn polls, right? Because there's a substantial portion of the population. And when I talk to people, and I talk to a lot of people, most of them are just like me. No, I don't take these fucking stupid polls or these surveys. Fuck that shit, right? So really what you're talking about is 73% or 63% respectively, depending on where you're talking about, of people who are willing to take these polls. So even the people who are willing to do these goddamn surveys and polls, even the majority of them are saying, yeah, I haven't been perfect. So the numbers skew much, much higher based on the people who are saying, I don't give a fuck what they want to ask. Now, I'm not telling these government, hey, kid, piss off. I'm not telling you anything. Right? More than one health expert has argued that slackening explains, at least in part, why the virus has flared up again. So yes, slacking, right? Once again, yeah. Well, at least they're saying in part, but are they offering any other caveats? This is what the other parts might mean, like people that actually have to go out and fucking have a living, have a life, go to work, function as a fucking human being in some capacity. But no, those aren't contributing factors, right? No. Anyways, like I say, they're not concerned about pointing any of that stuff out. I will. They won't, because once again, it's all about following a narrative, which is fear and hype to keep you conformed and compliant and doing what your political masters tell you to do. Or not just your political masters, but their media mouthpieces as well, or their pollsters, right? Or surveyors. The social melee combined with the pandemic risks generating a vicious cycle. The harsh measures required to limit the spread of COVID-19 generate fatigue, but slackening leads to more cases, which then requires harsher measures, leading to more fatigue, and so on. So yeah, it's an insane, vicious cycle that has no ending other than the demise of more and more of our freedoms and liberties. That's all that takes you. That's the only road. That's the only path that road takes you to, right? So, but once again, insanity. The easy way out of this cycle is having public health rules that are widely accepted. How about treating people like fucking adults and respecting their autonomy and their freedom and their sovereignty? And if you're too fearful to be out in public because there are other people who aren't as fearful as you, then maybe you're the one that needs to self-isolate or quarantine yourself. Don't look for the rest of society to shut down or be locked down to protect you. You take that personal responsibility to protect yourself. Rex Brennan, a political science professor at McGill University, often explains the concept of legitimacy to his students by using the example of a driver who stops at a stop sign on a country road in the middle of the night when no one else is around. What? A political science professor at McGill University often explains the concept of legitimacy to his students by using the example of a driver who stops at a stop sign. On a country road in the middle of the night when no one else is around. Well, I mean, I would do that. tell you the truth, it is a rule, and it is one of those things that it's good to become accustomed to. Some, like, that's the thing. Some rules or judgments, are probably wise practices to make, but I don't understand why that. What does that even mean? Because I would do that, right? If you're a bus driver, right? Because that's what they're saying of a driver who stops at a stop sign, or they're just following the rules of the road. I mean, what, you're supposed to just blast through a stop sign? Like, that doesn't even make sense. Something could be come from the other way that you don't see. Maybe they don't have their headlights. I don't even understand that example. A little bit odd, but anyways. It's that level of legitimacy that the goal is hoping for and needs if the new lockdown is to last only 28 days. Now, what it is people see the reasonableness in following certain rules, but they don't see the reasonableness in following others. It's up to people to make that determination in terms of, when you're talking about the safety aspect of it. But once again, it has this COVID rule. These COVID rules are nothing like a stop sign where there's an actual, right, potential for something. Because for me, it wouldn't be because it's necessarily because government told me, but because I realized that a stop sign is going to be at an intersection, right, where there's a potential a car might be coming. Even if you might not see it at this point, if you get up closer, maybe there's a tree blocking or obscuring the view. I mean, there's so many ways that scenario can't be played out without bringing some nuance to it. But anyways, let me just move on. In other words, Quebecers need to obey the rules even when police aren't around to nudge them, or even if they have discovered a loophole. But for that to happen, they need to understand what's being asked of them first. The existing confusion around the rules suggests that hasn't happened yet. So yeah, well, of course, listen. Most people will follow reasonable rules because most people are reasonable, and there's always going to be exceptions and outliers to those rules, right? People that just won't. But once again, you're not going to prevent that from happening. And by trying to create some blanket statement or blanket, shutdown of your economy or lockdown of any portion of your society, all you're doing is causing a lot of harm to those people who do choose to do the right thing. That overwhelming majority of people who will stop at that stop sign, right? Why cause them harm just because there are some people in society, even now, who will not stop at that stop sign late at night. They'll just blast right through it. But once again, why cause harm to the rest of society? Because there's always going to be that small select, and you can't prevent bad things from happening. That's the thing with people in government. They have this false sense or this false belief that if they just crack down harder, become more and more authoritarian, that they'll prevent bad things from happening. That has never happened. Even in a family setting, even in a family structure of yourself, if you've raised any kids, you could try your best to protect bad things from happening, but bad things are going to happen no matter what you do, right? Give them good information, properly educate them, teach them some personal responsibility, give them all kinds of tools to use, right? That's best to defend themselves and protect themselves from bad things from happening, but just accept the fact that bad things have the potential to happen, and trying to quash or prevent them from being free as the means to protect them is the terrible and devastating way to do so. You could, once again, we could all be locked up in our own personal cages, and would definitely protect us from harming each other if we're all locked up in individual cages. But then we're not living as human beings. Then we're not even living properly a life, right? So once again, it's not a matter of protecting or defending every individual out there from bad things from happening. It's about giving people the personal responsibility to try to defend themselves. And once again, is setting down and laying down some decent rules. But when you're talking about COVID, that is definitely not what's taking place. And even this Jonathan Montpetit has basically owned up and acknowledged that in this article. Anyways, let's see who's made it into the chat here. What's going on, Michael Griffin? How you doing? Hey, good. I'm here. Good morning. Good morning to you too. And Cobra Kai. Yeah, actually, was it my son that was saying he's watching that Cobra Kai? Apparently too. But anyways, that's awesome. Good morning. I believe you had used to be the anarchist was your name, I believe, right? Prior. But anyways, good morning to you as well. Hey, what's going on, Muskoka Bear GC? 1,000% fake pandemic. Right on. Morning, Griff. Oh, okay, right on. the politicians aren't the problem. There are millions of people who would take their place in a heartbeat. That's true. Yeah, it's the people. It's the culture. It is society at large. That's why I keep telling people when people say we the people, right? And I hear other people that are active in the liberty movement or active about talking about big government stuff is like we the people. And I get it. I kind of get you. But that's the problem when you use that kind of collective term is like, yeah, just like this gentleman's acknowledging, there's a lot of we the people in this country who are completely in opposition and want this stuff to take place, right? Because they're benefiting some way from it, right? So this is the problem when it's nice to think in such overarching collective terms. It sounds good. It feels all warm and fuzzy, but once again, we have to deal with the reality where there's a substantial subsection of this Canadian population, as this gentleman's owning up to, that yeah, they're liking this stuff, right? They're benefiting tremendously from big government imposing their will on the rest of the population. And you see them out there on the Twitter, like on Twitter and stuff. Even today, so Trump contacted COVID, apparently, if you haven't heard, contacted Melania, and there's a lot of people out there that are celebrating. Right. So really, we're not all in this together. Even with the like Make America, like there's such a huge divide. That's the thing. It's easy to pretend like people are putting themselves in their own little silos, in their own little echo chambers, and pretending that somehow represents the rest of society. When once again, step outside that silo, step outside that echo chamber, and you'll see, there's a lot of people who are opposing you. This is what we're up against. And why? Because everything has been turned into a political opinion, or like that people should have an opinion, or politics should have any ability to impose itself in so many areas of their life. People's political opinions, it shouldn't matter. How we properly get along is don't give anyone else the pretense that their opinion, their perspectives, or their subjective preference in how you should live should matter anything. I should be able to live life how I see fit, as like, once again, as long as I don't use preemptive force or violence or theft. If we could accept and adopt, more and more Canadians could accept and adopt that you fucking stay in your lane and I'll stay the fucking mine, we would be much, much better off, right? But most people feel like they're constantly want to infringe or encroach on each other's lane and force or thrust, impose themselves onto each other. And then you get that retaliatory, reflective response where people are like, oh yeah, you want to fucking force your shit on me? Well, I'm going to do the same right back to you. And this is the society, the kind of society that kind of bullshit, that kind of collectivism, that kind of groupthink breeds. If we could just get back to the fundamental basics and understand that and perceiving of each other as individuals and say, listen, your opinion, you're more than willing to have it, but in terms of politics and the ability to use government, the mystical, that giant monopoly of force or violence, no, you can have a political perspective or opinion on anything, but you don't get to vote to impose your political perspective or opinion on me. If we could get that to the point where government was so small, at least to that point where really people realize, yeah, I can't use government, as a battering ram or as a bat itself to keep clobbering my opponents over the head with. Then once again, if we could go through life, recognize and realize that neither our neighbors or co-workers or some family members or people, the rest of people in society can use politics as a means to impose themselves on us. If we could remove that from the table entirely, then we'd be a much more peaceful and prosperous society. But once again, central planners, that is their modus operandi, whatever. That's how they work. That's how they function. So, like I say, we have to change the culture if we want to change that. And it's like this gentleman saying, it's not just getting rid of a couple of the politicians, because they'll find someone else that'll replace them in quick order and quick succession. So, yeah, I agree with you. Okay, let me see. Hey, what's going on, Frenchman? Nice to see you in the chat once again. A world acquiesced. Yeah, earlier they're just starting to enforce the world. Yeah, acquiesced. Yes, they did. Because, like I say, a lot of people have accepted, well, life is hard. If big government will just take care, if authoritarian mommy or daddy, if they'll just promise to keep taking care of me from cradle to grave, I'll subject and conform myself. I'll deny my individuality and subject myself to their whims, to their political edicts. Why? Because as long as they keep me in their umbrella, right, and give this false pretense that they're the ones that's going to take up the responsibility for me instead. Yeah, it's a terrible thing. It's terrible. Oh, here, let me bring this back off the table here, or off the chat. Let me take this off here, folks. There we go. That's better. They make rules confusing to distract whether they are valid. Exactly. Well, all political rules these days and legislation, even things that are considered supposed to be laws, although acts of legislation stuff, they're not proper laws, obviously, but they're all meant as a means. Whatever happened. There we go. They're all meant as a means to be so vague and the least descriptive so that they can be interpreted by the legal or the political class as a means to suit whatever outcome they want. That's basically what the way the rules are set up these days. More testing equals more cases. Exactly, Thorpe Stanford. That's basically what I was saying yesterday. Of course, if you're going to do more testing, there's going to be more cases. Exactly. Hey, yeah, smokers are less affected. Hey, I'm just saying, right? I'm just saying. I'm not talking about COVID or whatever. I'm just saying that if you don't take proper care of your health, you are going to be more vulnerable. And of course, the media and the political class are going to use those vulnerabilities as an excuse to say, look at how devastating and deadly COVID is. But no, it's not really. It's just that people have not been being as diligent as historically, in the past in terms of taking better care of their health. Some people do, some people don't. Because there are definitely some people who definitely take good care of themselves, but there are a lot who don't. But I get what you're saying there, Sanico. So yeah, nothing against the smokers. I know how bad smokers have been treated, especially by the propagandists and the rulers in this country. They constantly tell you got to quit smoking for your own health, but they love to sell those cigarettes. Or at least get the taxes, because government gets, when you buy a pack of cigarettes in this country, the overwhelming majority, the bulk of the cost of that pack of cigarettes or that carton of cigarettes is taxes. The people that produce the cigarettes make a lot less, pales in comparison to profit margins as in comparison to, like I say, how much government takes away from that. But they're like, but it's all about your health. But yeah, we'll keep collecting that money that based on your vices of choice, right? Up is down and down is up. Yeah, very Orwellian or dystopian. Either way. Yeah, I agree. Arbor Borealis, right on. Bear, right on. Thanks, right on. Really appreciate that. Hey, Don Hicks, nice to see you there. Let's say, hopefully, actually, me and Don, he's one of the gentlemen that hopefully we'll be able to do our live stream tomorrow, covering a very sensitive topic, right? Definitely causes some people to fall on either side of that one. But once again, we'll be able to, obviously, I think we'll be able to cover that topic in a not just clear and concise manner, but with enough nuance. I think most people are like, yeah, I can accept that. You guys seem to be making sense. And I think most of us, and there's going to be three of us, there's going to be me and Don and another gentleman. His name's escaping me right now. Is it Tristan or something? No, anyways, but there's three of us that are going to be having the conversation tomorrow. And I believe, as long as you gentlemen agree, I believe I set it up for 12 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow. So as long as that's okay with you, Don, and the other gentleman, I'm just waiting to hear back. I'll check the message after I finish the stream. So we'll be doing that live stream tomorrow, like I say, 12 o'clock Eastern time. And like I say, it's a really contentious, but it's an important topic to discuss, because not just the U.S., but here in Canada too, basically abortion as it stands, there are no rules. Basically, there's no rules. You can abort a child or baby, whatever you want to call them. It's not an embryo at that point. When you're like 8-9 months pregnant, like it's a viable child, right? It's a baby, right? But yeah, you can even abort them at that point in time. Late stage abortion is legal. Basically, there's no restrictions on abortion in Canada, which is wrong. Once again, and there's not to suggest no abortion should ever be allowed. As a father, I don't have a daughter, but if I had a daughter that was raped by someone, and we find out real early, and it's maybe the first or second week or so, or somewhere like that, it's like, yes, would I want my daughter to give birth to an illegitimate child that came to fruition as a consequence or an act of pure violence, force, and control? Hell no. And once again, I'm all for defending and protecting the unborn or that life, but this is where this nuance has to take place, because it can't be a one size fits all. It should be, there should be some restrictions or limits imposed, but it shouldn't come as a consequence of government, and it should be clear and concise in how those limits or these constraints come to exist, and leaving some leeway for some freedom and for some exceptional circumstances, because there's other times you can think of too where there's exceptional circumstances where you might want to allow some of those later stage abortions to take place. Let's say it was a matter of either the child dies or the mother dies, right? If aborting that child allows the mother to live. As much as I'm against abortion, well, I don't want the mother to die, right? So, well, especially if it was like my wife or my daughter or someone, right? So once again, this is a nuanced conversation, and I'm glad and proud to see that Don Hicks and other Canadians are willing to engage in it and, like I say, talk about it with that kind of those nuanced position to get people to think more critically about it. But anyways, go get me a Switch. Boy, do I remember that one. Cried all the way to the tree branch. Yeah, me too. Hey, if you're wise, I remember a couple of times try to find one of them switches that are on that come from one of the little bushes that hopefully was dying off, right? Maybe overcooked with the sun and become a little bit more brittle, a little bit dried out so that it'll break the minute you hit. But yeah, if you get one from one of those bushes, or your mom and dad set you back, said, no, you get me one from them nice fresh bushes over there, right? Yeah, them things, it's almost like a whip, right? Damn, I remember that. Oh, I felt that many a times. And sadly, not just from my parents. Like I say, when I was growing up, and if you're a Gen Xer, you might be privy to this as well, or experience this as a part of growing up. It wasn't just parents. It was, it was relatives, uncles, grandparents, church leaders, pastors, principals, teachers. Everybody was allowed to hit kids when I was growing up. It seemed like it was just normal. It was par for the course, right? And once again, you wonder why a lot of people grow up with violent tendencies or have this authoritarian mindset, right? Well, there you go. Right? So you kind of breed that stuff, right? Don't be shocked if you breed or you raise your kids with violence as a means to the end, right? As might makes right. Don't be surprised if they grow up to be violent themselves. That's just it's just a reflection of reality, right? Anyways, what's going on? Hey, nice to see Ken Rose in the chat. Nice to see you here, sir. Swim? Yeah, swim. Not sure. I'll have to get down here a little further. Okay, where are we at? There we go. I just bought a nice lakefront Brockville, Ontario to build a house on. I'm looking at land in America now. It's getting weird here. Nice. Brockville, actually, that'd probably be a nice little place there in Brockville, actually. Little lakefront property. Sweet. And looking at land in America, that would be great. Me and my wife have contemplated, just to depend on how bad things get. As much as I would hate to leave my home, I love my home. Nothing isn't, like I say, it's nothing exceptional, but it's my home, right? But we've contemplated that, making that move as well. Real Canadian, hey, what's going on, Real Canadian? If you want a good eye opener, check out the 1982 Constitution Act. Senior made, especially Section 32 piece. Right on. Yeah, I have read them. Can't think off the top of my head what Section 32 is in particular, but thanks for mentioning that out there, Real Canadian. Appreciate that. What? I had no idea about the live stream. You sure you have the right Don? Oh, sorry. Okay, wrong one then. Yeah. Oh, sorry, it's not Don. It's John. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. Sorry about that, John or Don. Yeah, it's John Hicks. Sorry, my bad. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry about that. You're like, what the hell is he talking about? I don't remember that. Did I do that in my sleep? Or damn, I must have been really heavy drinking last night. I'm just kidding. Just kidding, Don. But yeah, you're right. No, it's not Don Hicks. Not you. It's John Hicks. Sorry. But either way, that's definitely going to be taking place tomorrow. We buried the Canadian dream with our parents. Sadly. That is a bit of a reflection of reality. But anyways, let me get back to, so I did this article. And of course, I was telling you folks about, Donald Trump and Melania being test positive for COVID today. The next one here, let's bring this one up. Because, yeah, it's got another Canadian aspect to this story. Actually, I was even thinking, because I like the colors black and yellow anyways, I've always been a big fan. And I've got I've got black dress shirts. I've got the ties, the match. I've got yellow dress shirts with the black tie to match. This one here in particular, actually. Big fan of the black and yellow together. Plus, as a Canadian, I know some Canadians probably like, what are you talking about? It's an American team. But I was always a big fan. I like football. I was always a big fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Really like that team. And black and yellow once again. And like I said, they just seem to be two colors that seem to go together really well. Suzuki, if you're into bikes, right? Black and yellow. But anyways, I was thinking, you know what? Since there's this constant talk all the time in this article, like we're seeing rhetoric, oh, the Proud Boys. I was thinking I might even go and grab me one of them shirts. I do like that polo shirt because I wear polo shirts myself. I love the polo shirts, you know, and I'm not wearing t-shirts or a dress shirt. Polo shirts is another kind of shirt that I like to wear. And you know what? I don't care about whether they're politically correct and the constant insults and derision. I was thinking, yeah, I might even grab one of them cool looking shirts just to have to trigger some of the people that, you know, this is the thing. The Proud Boys, sure, there might be some people in there that act all like, you know, of course, in-group preference is big, right? But the constant attacks and derision on people just because they, you know, the Proud Boys and Gavin McInnes, basically, he's been canceled, right? Yeah, I'm not a fan of that bullshit. And the more people that try to cancel others, the more I want to support the people who are being canceled because I'm just not a fan of that shit. I don't like that at all. Anyways, let's get to this CBC hit piece article. Canada, Trump's Proud Boys remark boosts far-right group's profile, including in Canada. Experts say, once again, CBC with the experts, right? Well, you know, the guy must or gal must be right because, hey, they're an expert. Don't question their opinions or perspective. They're experts. During Tuesday's presidential debate, Trump said Proud Boys should stand back and stand by. It's reported by Mark Golem, October 2nd, 2020. U.S. President Donald Trump's comment about the self-described Western chauvinist Proud Boys during Tuesday night's raucous presidential debate was a significant profile boost to the organization, including its members in Canada. Experts on extremist groups say, see, like when I read this stuff, like I haven't even had any past interactions or conversation with anyone that's deemed Proud Boys, but when I hear this stuff, it's like actually really makes me want to reach out. And I'll just mention there, if you are an active member of the Proud Boys, yeah, I'd love to have a conversation with you. And so you can push back against some of the bullshit and how they're trying to stereotype or deride you. And once again, and for that matter, like I say, I might have to grab myself. Oh, by the way, going to be starting work soon. I've heard back from an employer and I'm definitely going to be back into the workforce. Well, that should be fun, but at least it's in a field that I won't have to deal with what some other people have to deal with. But anyways, but yeah, but once I get some coin rolling in, or a few bucks at least, I'm thinking I might actually invest in getting myself maybe one of these Proud Boy polo shirts or whatever, and maybe I'll have it in the background here somewhere. Maybe I'll get that, maybe a MAGA hat, right? Just like I say, just to, I don't know, get people to really, not necessarily just for the triggering, but get people to realize that, yeah, you can try to label people just to make it so the labels just don't stick, right? That's the big thing for me. Now, once again, I can't necessarily say that I identify or would agree with everything that Proud Boys stand for. Tell you the truth, I haven't really delved into it too much other than the way Gavin McInnes described it, because I think he was the one that actually started that whole thing. And the way he described it wasn't about being a white supremacist, but a male chauvinist in Western society that believes in more traditional aspects of that. It's like, whatever, that's fine. People might consider that politically incorrect these days, but I got nothing against that. Hey, to each their own. And once again, to hear people constantly, like these hacks in the media, try to paint these people as being violent extremists. Like, just wait till you hear the way the Proud Boys are explained or described in this article. The all-male organization, what all males can't have. Hey, listen, there's all kinds of organizations that only accept certain people. Freedom of association, right? So what if they're all male? What's your point? The all-male organization was co-founded in 2016 by a Canadian, Gavin McInnes, and it's known primarily for violent confrontations with anti-fascists. But the anti-fascists are usually the ones that are causing the violence or initiating that violence. But once again, CBC is not going to present or portray that kind of narrative, right? Because there's probably people within the CBC organization that secretly got their Antifa clothing or paraphernalia, right? Or their tools for destruction in their drawer, right? So CBC, whatever by day, Antifa by night kind of deal, right? The Proud Boys group says it disavows racism. Well, there you go. It's right there. They say it, right? They specifically state that they disavow racism. And I've actually seen myself that there are black people, brown people, I think Asian people, and that's, I guess nowadays, based on that article I was reading yesterday by that Asian lady, Amanda, what was it, Kong or whatever. It's like apparently Asians are identifying as people of color these days. I don't know, whatever, but whatever, right? To each their own, I guess. However you want to identify. It's not just pronouns now, right? But anyways, yeah, but like I say, I have seen that they have people in this organization of Proud Boys that are very much come from different backgrounds, political stripe, and color in terms of the color of their skin. So racist, yeah, just it seems like a terrible way to describe them. But of course, that's what CBC does. It's they love denigrating people who they perceive as being politically opposed to them, right? Yet has been accused of having ties with white nationalists and neo-Nazis. Yet has been accused. So just because someone accuses them, is that because you're saying they've been accused, is that supposed to override the fact that they say, no, we're not, right? So they admit that, like, no, and the person should know themselves pretty well, right? I would imagine. But we're just supposed to what? Because the experts in here are saying, just override and overrule what they're saying as it pertains to themselves and their own personal knowledge about their own selves or ever what they've done. And just because other people have accused them of that, well, we'll just go with the accusation, right? Whatever happened to innocent before until proven guilty, right? The all-male, okay. This is the best thing that could have happened to Proud Boys and the white supremacist movement in probably half a century. Bernie Farber, chair of the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, said of Trump's comments. That's another thing. These anti-hate network are the ones that seem to do the most hating. Just hate, hate, hate. And what we've seen, like, that's why not only they project, but it's all about gaslighting and completely misrepresenting, misconstruing what they actually stand for. That's a lot of times, and like I say, not all, hashtag not all, but a lot of times these organizations that claim to be anti-whatever, like in this example, anti-hate, just go look at their website and see how many organizations or groups that they really, really seem to hate and want to target, not just politically, but to have some of their own peeps targeting to criminalize their speech or some of their opinions or wrong thing, right? So really, anti-hate, like I say, these organizations seem to be quite full of that hate themselves. He said Trump's words certainly engaged many Proud Boys supporters on social media. And Farber has a specific message to Canadians who may be complacent and think this is an American problem. Don't be so smug. They have a proud history here in Canada of defiance, he said. Some would argue that they're actually more. Some would argue that there are. Shouldn't it be that there are actually, because there is a possessive noun. They are, right? There with the apostrophe there would be they are, not there. But anyways, hey, whatever. This person was too quick to, he's just loving typing in about his anti-Proud Boys sentiment. That he's just forget about the proofreading. Some would argue that they are actually, or there are, I should say, there are actually more white nationalists here than there are in the States, right? Than they are. Anyways, whatever. I'm not going to get too big of being the picky on the whole grammar. Well, that's just me though. I try to hold myself. Hey, I make mistakes from time to time too. Not many, because I try to be proactive and proofread my stuff, but it does happen. So I guess I shouldn't be too crazy here. Anyways, some would argue that they actually have more white nationalists than they are in the. So they're saying, so this person or whoever this is suggesting is that there's actually this Farber apparently is saying that there's probably more white nationalists, or I guess what they would say white nationalists. That's also to suggest white supremacists in Canada than there are even in the U.S., which has 320 or 330 million people. Canada has a mere 37, 38. So really. Wow, that's saying a lot, isn't it? That's really saying a lot. So once again, that's what Farber thinks of anyone that pushed back against the Trudeau Liberals here. History in Canada. The group is smaller than in the U.S. and seems less likely to engage in violence than the U.S. U.S. counterparts, Farber said. So which is it? There's more of them in Canada. They just haven't joined the group. I don't know. Nonetheless, Canada is as susceptible And the recruitment and radicalization of kids and young people is happening here as much as it's happening in the United States, he said. But no, there's no radicalization or recruitment for people for Antifa or to be an SJW progressive or the politically correct culture of whether it's the LGBTQ or the feminist movement. No, there's no recruitment going on there. And like, no, it's not the halls of academia that's fucking filled with these goddamn people trying to recruit or radicalize a whole bunch of people in that far left bullshit, right? No, just ignore and avoid all that stuff. Look over here instead of this little group of people that are wearing black and yellow polo shirts and like claiming to be male chauvinists. No, those are the big threat. Yeah. Forget about the actual institutionalized aspects of like I say, the politically correct far left movement that's taking place, like I say, not just out on the streets, but through academia, the political class, right? Holy shit. Like look at in Canada, how many of these, and throughout the media organizations such as CBC. Yeah, just disregard all that stuff, folks. No, you need to focus on the Proud Boys, right? Wow. During Tuesday night's debate, Trump was asked by moderator Chris Wallace of Fox News if he would be willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups. First of all, why malicious groups? White supremacists? I'm not a fan of white supremacists either. People that think that you're supreme in any fucking way based on your skin color, yeah, that's a fucking knuckle-dragging motherfucker right there. And I've met them in my life, and those are people that, like I say, I have just as much disdain for those people as I do for those far left dipshits, right? But they both have that same mentality where you just fucking pick and choose people based on what some superficiality of what they represent, like their skin color or what's between their legs. They're fucking two sides of the same coin. They're two peas in the pod as far as I'm concerned when you're talking about the far left and the far right. They're all fucking a bunch of authoritarian collectivists who would love to destroy the freedoms of a tremendous amount of people in their respective communities or countries if they just like don't match up with a particular skin color or background, right? So really messed up people. But I mean, militia groups, why would you fucking go against militia groups? Militia group is to defend people. The whole point of a militia is to defend the people against authoritarian big government. Authoritarian, like, you know, I bet the German people would have wished they had a lot of militias to defend themselves against the fucking fascists, the Nazis. I'm sure in Italy, I'm sure that would have been really awesome to have militias at the time when Mussolini was rising to power. Pretty sure it would have been an awesome thing to have some fucking ragtag militias of people who were freedom fighters and standing up against Mao or Stalin or any other of these fucking dictators or authoritarian collectivists throughout the past. But once again, this tries to suggest that what, militias? You're just going to tie in white supremacists and militias in together as if they're all just one and the same, right? What the? And demand that they stand down and not add to the violence that has erupted in places such as Portland, Oregon, and Kenosha, Wisconsin. The president said, sure, but did not offer any words of condemnation, instead pivoting to blame the violence on left-wing radicals such as Antifa supporters. When pushed by Wallace, Trump asked for the name of a group to condemn, and Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden suggested Proud Boys. So the president said, sure. And he even said, stand down and stand back. Like he's not saying, yeah, go get these. He's literally saying, and all he did was follow up. And I watched the debate. I covered it. And if you haven't seen it, me and my son covered it on our Liberty Hunter podcast channel. You can check it in its entirety and our subsequent commentary after it if you want to. But yeah, basically he said, you know what? Yeah, he didn't say those specific words, but more or less, listen, these are people that are trying to defend themselves against the far left. And the fact that the people in the media and Chris Wallace don't want to own up and accept the fact that Antifa are the ones that are instigating most of this bullshit and have started this fucking down this road of this path to violent activism and causing harm, you know, devastation and destruction needlessly to people who are innocent. Yes, they started. So stop trying to focus on the Proud Boys for being the ones that are saying, okay, I'm sick and fucking tired of this violence being imposed on people and no one being willing to stand up in defiance or in defense of it, right? So, or defend themselves against it. So the Proud Boys are reactionary. They're defensive in nature. They weren't offensive. It wasn't like the Proud Boys were out terrorizing poor, innocent, helpless SJWs or feminists or people from the LGBTQ, RSTUV, WX. two-spirit, whatever Z, right? Group. No, there was never any widespread or rampant reports of that in the past. No, it wasn't. So media can't even use that as a bullshit excuse. But once again, the Proud Boys are reactionaries because of the rise of the far left, and the media and this Wallace and the other hacks like them are trying to constantly keep the narrative to suggest that the reactionaries are the ones that are what? Oh no, the biggest threats or the worst culprits in society. No. Well, I mean, they're probably a big threat. And what it is these people perceive that the people like that would join a group like the Proud Boys, they're a much bigger threat because most of them aren't a bunch of inept fucking losers like those who represent the far left. It's the losers that are ones that are in society, but losers because they chose to be losers, right? Not just losers because they've just had a poor lot in life. These are people that have chose to go down the wrong path predominantly, right? But anyways, I'm not even going to get into that fact, but it really does piss me off of the way the media constantly portrays and presents, not just the Proud Boys, but you got all kinds of groups. Was it Lemute or, there's a few other ones in Canada, like even patriotic Canadian, the pages that are set up as being patriotic Canadians, they're all being painted and stereotyped as just a bunch of right-wing extremists who have violent tendencies and white nationalists or white supremacists, right? When in reality, yeah, you might find a few of them within any of these organizations. You're going to find bad actors in any community or group or setting, right? There's bad people among us. That's a reality. But to fucking suggest or paint with a broad brush that they're all just like with Antifa, I wouldn't even suggest that all Antifa fucks are the worst of the worst or all violent. Like some aren't. Right? That's the thing. That's the beautiful thing about perceiving and dealing with each other as an individual. If I was in any of these situations or settings, I wouldn't be attacking people just because, look, that guy identifies as Antifa. I'm just going to go out and attack them. No, but if I seen that person attacking someone else, like using preemptive violence towards someone else, I might come to that person's defense to defend them from someone else who's imposing violence on them. But no, I don't just go out and attack people based on anything, whether they come from the left or the right. But once again, the media is not going to tell you any of this kind of stuff. They don't want that kind of nuance. They want it to keep divided, right? Keep us divided between left and right and keep us fighting pitted against each other. That's what the media loves it, because then you're not paying much attention to them, or you just don't have enough energy left to expend in fighting those or the political class because you're too busy fighting amongst your peers or people who you perceive as your enemy. Members of the organization responded enthusiastically on social media, welcoming Trump's remarks and posting altered versions of the Proud Boys logo that includes the words "stand back" and "stand by." Some, according to the Washington Post, saw a retail opportunity push in $30 shirts and $40 hoodies bearing the group's logo and the words "Proud Boys stand by." McGinnis, who's no longer a member of the organization, was simulcasting the debate on his website and seemed stunned when Trump made his comments. Did he say Proud Boys, McGinnis said? I control the Proud Boys, Donald, he joked. Do not stand down. Do not stand back. By Wednesday afternoon, Trump attempted to clarify his remarks, saying he didn't know who the Proud Boys were, but whoever they are, they have to stand down and let law enforcement do their work. But anyways, folks, yeah, in addition to the another reason why I brought up potentially buying one of their shirts, you have to go to officialproudboys.com because, yeah, eBay, Amazon, all these goddamn big activist corporations these days have taken down the ability for the Proud Boys to actually, to have this retail opportunity because, they, it is, right? They want to make some money to use to benefit their organization to expand, I would imagine. But yeah, eBay and some of these other big online retailers or for sellers, they're basically preventing the Proud Boys from gaining or profiting from any of this stuff. And you know what? Like I say, if you want to support them, go straight to the page, officialproudboys.com, and you can get that stuff and bypass having to go through eBay or Amazon. And that's the thing with eBay and Amazon. Stop playing fucking politics. What? It's not like what's on their shirt. Proud Boys stand by, right? Or stand down or stand back. What the hell, right? What people aren't allowed to express themselves in any way on a fucking t-shirt anymore? I mean, think about how much more vulgar fucking shit you've seen on t-shirts, as if this should be prevented or squashed because people, what? Because something said on a t-shirt like Proud Boys stand by or something? Like, anyways, so every time someone in the media tries to take down like these kind of initiatives to like get these people some support, then hey, counteract that and support them yourself and go directly in doing so. Screw or skip the middleman. That's another thing too. There's lots of ways to skip the middleman, folks. You know, if we get sick and tired of having to deal with Facebook, Twitter, and any of these, there's all kinds of options out there, folks. That's the thing. We've got redundancy. That's one thing we've got in the liberty movement. We've got redundancy built in big time. Even with cryptocurrencies, not just one, you got multitudes or multiples of them out there, right? Social media platforms. If Facebook fucks you over, if Twitter fucks you over, hey, there's Gab, there's mine. If YouTube screws you over, there's BitChute or there's DTube or there's redundancy out there. It's just you got to find ways to navigate and get around the kind of restrictions being imposed by these hacks. And there's ways. You just got to be a little bit more proactive and agile. That's the word I'm looking for. Anyways, let me get back to checking out what you folks are saying here in the stream again. Okay, where are we at? Go get me a switch. Oh, yeah. In Alberta, all lives matter is now hate speech. Wow. I didn't hear that, but I mean, of course, nothing would surprise me these days, but that's pretty sad, right? Yeah, the leader. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, actually, now that you mentioned it, yeah, I believe he is. Yeah, he's was he half black and something else, right? But yeah, or is he black? Anyways, whatever way. But yeah, I think you're correct. That's pretty wild, right? Pretty wild to say they're a bunch of white supremacists and the leaders. Wow. Anyways, South Dakota is probably the last North American jurisdiction left. South Dakota. Oh, speaking of that, actually, South Dakota, really happy to hear about the fine folks. Thanks to Donald Trump fast tracking and giving the approval on the Keystone XL. There's a town I'm not sure if you heard about in Alberta, probably down around one of those border towns, I would imagine, or at least somewhere where they're building that pipeline or where there's infrastructure. That's a boom right now. While a lot of Canada is going through a lot of pain and devastation economically, losing jobs hand over fist, thanks to the Keystone XL approval by Donald Trump, there's a one town in particular in Alberta that's like going through a mini boom time right now, and good for those folks. Good for those folks. Really happy to hear that. Can they advertise and put ads on Kijiji? Good question, Sunwares. Good question. Actually, I wonder if they could. Because yeah, that would be something. I still check out Kijiji a lot, but I think even Kijiji's getting a little bit political. That's the thing. Stop getting into the politics, right? Economics, right? This is economics, folks. Like, keep the politics out of it, right? If people don't like those things, right? Don't like those shirts, don't buy them. Stop trying to prevent other people from doing so. That's a major issue. People, when they try to impose themselves on each other, like, just live and let live. People are gonna, because it's not like you're gonna prevent this. Like I say, Proud Boys got their own official website, so they can bypass any third-party entities, and you can just buy from them directly. So actually, some of these like Amazon and eBay, they're just hurting their own bottom line. Now, sure, they've got lots of capital, they've got lots of economic activity. They're like, okay, we can afford to lose that, but they're still losing. They're still proactively choosing to have a lower bottom line economically, right, than they would be otherwise, or have a larger active participant in terms of retailers on their platform. Why not, like I say, why not be diverse? Like, what the hell's wrong with these companies? That's the beauty of the market. The market serves, and it serves the people who demand. If there's a demand for the product, offer the product. And a t-shirt, once again, we're just talking about t-shirts here, right? Okay, what else we got here? Let's see what else I was going to cover in this particular stream. Actually, how long have I been going? 123. You know, an hour and a half is probably good, right? And I think most people, it's been fairly quiet in the stream, and I would imagine it's probably because it's fairly early today, but I covered a couple decent topics of subjects of concern. And like I say, there's definitely lots. Maybe I'll just go run through a bunch of headlines real quick until but I'll probably tie this up by an hour and a half, so as not to keep them for too long. Oh, yeah, there was this one. Let me actually bring this up. Rather than putting it on the screen, I'll just make sure I link them in the description of the video, but I'm just going to go through these real quick. So RCMP has reversed their mask policy for bearded officers. This is in British Columbia, CBC. Prime Minister said policy discriminated against officers who keep beards for religious reasons. So they've even politicized. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but basically the RCMP, under the leadership of that Brenda Lucky or whatever, basically said that due to COVID, you have to have your N95 mask on. And for anyone that has like big bushy beards, right, and you can't get a proper seal on the mask, then we're going to have to put you in desk duties or give you something else to do because you can't be out there on the front lines because you need to be able to protect yourself and other people in society, blah, blah, blah. And it was supposed to be like a universal in terms of for everybody. So that's non-discriminatory. Actually, the whole point of non-discriminatory is everybody has to follow the same rules. That's discriminatory is if some people have to follow the rules and other people don't. That's what I would suggest. But everyone had to follow the same rules. It wasn't given for some people or others. It was everybody within the RCMP, no matter who you are. You know, even if there was women with beard, although you won't find too many of them, right? Some older ladies get a few of those long hairs, but I don't see too many that got big bushy beards. But yeah, it was set up everybody, no matter what your skin color is yeah, if you got a big old bushy beard and you can't get that mask to seal properly, we're going to have to put you on desk duties. But because once again, everything's politicized, and we know the kind of there's certain groups in society these days that have a lot of political clout and can use their oppressed status or their victim status as a means to give themselves exceptions, right? To have exceptions to the rules these days. Well, that's what they're doing. So, and Justin Trudeau, he bent over backwards and basically said that nope, you don't have to follow those orders no more. Yeah, no. Now if you got one of those big bushy beards, well, no, you should be able to be out there on the front line. And no, you don't have to shave off your beard. No, we don't have to worry about the seal. Once again, the rest of Canada, the rest of society, oh, we got to lock you down hardcore. And if you dare do anything against us, oh, we'll be sending our enforcers out to give you a big old fucking fine, right? Actually, let me bring this up because, yeah, it is kind of an important thing. So let me bring it up here. So as you can see, like I say, yeah, okay, there we go. Okay, let's get down. So, like I say, that was reported October 1st. Look, they didn't even give a person to put a name. They didn't even put a name as to who was the contributor to this article, right? The RCMP has reversed its policy on mask wearing after being accused of discrimination over the rule, which saw bearded Mounties included Sikh and Muslim officers reassigned to desk duty, including Sikh and Muslim officers. I would suggest, right? Were there any white men, or did they said, okay, I'll shave off my beard? Was it that the white men said, I'll shave off my beard? But once again, you're using the fact that Sikhs and Muslims are saying it's for religious reasons. So they're using the excuse of religion to try to skirt the rules. So once again, if you can't enforce the rules because people have religious exemptions, then don't fucking start the rules to begin. But if you're going to have rules, then you have to make those rules universal for everyone, because that's the point of having rules. The minute somebody is given the ability to escape those rules, then once again, that's just people that are there. Now you'll find other people will find me here. Now you might find some other people who now going to convert to Islam and say, oh, well, even though I'm a white guy, well, I now identify as a Muslim, right? And now I'm not going to, just like people are using to skirt or avoid the rules in terms of gender, this gender bullshit with trans, right? Now there's men that are saying, oh, really? Oh, so I could just call myself a trans and go into wrestling or mixed martial arts and start beating up women, right? Because I get to skirt these rules. Why? Because I can use some exemption that's been allowed to me. It's, once again, this is insane. But the part that I thought only is that part is most crazy, but what Trudeau said, where was it exactly? What else did they say again? Or maybe it was up here earlier. I wanted to get the point because they basically say, hold on. Yeah, this is it. The original policy right here. The original policy was described as discriminatory and disappointing by Prime Minister Trudeau, who added it shouldn't have happened. Under questioning in the House of Commons this week, Trudeau said the policy was an example of systemic racism in the RCMP. Wow. Wow. It was an example of systemic racism. So he's suggesting that that policy was introduced, right? And I don't know, like I say, I don't know much about that Brenda Lucki, and not that I would ever be defending that woman, right? She is the upper echelon of the mindless order followers in this country, right? But to suggest, I don't even believe for a minute, like I say, I don't know the woman, but to suggest, Trudeau's basically suggesting that Lucki introduced, or whoever's in charge of introducing this stuff, introduced it as a means to discriminate against certain people in her organization. You really think that's the case? Or was it she was going through this rule that, yeah, if you got a mask, right? What's more plausible? What's more acceptable in terms of an excuse or a reasoning behind that? That she's doing it to be discriminatory against Muslims or Sikh people? Or that she's doing it because she's one of those people who are falling for the panic and the hype about COVID and wanting to make sure everybody follows those rules because she's all about setting the rules, right? That would be a more plausible explanation. But hey, once again, Trudeau loves to politicize everything, and he'll call anyone a racist to suit his ideology or to get particular favor or a pat on the back from certain groups in society these days. So there's that. Just wanted to point that out, folks. That's another pretty important aspect of this. Sarcasm, trust the information because it's from the government. Exactly. Hey, thanks for joining the stream. Millennials are stupid. Just say that it violates your religious beliefs. I know it's right. This is the insane part of this stuff. Anyways, like I say, it's an hour and a half now, folks. So anyways, thanks again. Like I say, I was going to do a quick rundown of a whole bunch of other things, but I think I covered quite a bit today. Like I say, I got some things I still got to do. But I will say, please leave a comment in this stream after it's done if you want to participate or be involved in any conversation. Because like I said, I've been looking out to reach out to more and more people, and you folks, rather than just sitting in the chat, I invite you to come on. I'll interview you, give all kinds of, you can pick whatever topic of discussion you want to talk about. Of course, it should be liberty related to. It's going to be on the Canadian Libertarian YouTube channel, so let's at least keep it liberty oriented, right? But yeah, like I say, I'm more than willing to reach out and have conversations with as many people as I possibly can, because I think this is what we have to do: lead by example and show how it's done. And even if you have real massive or vehement disagreements with me in some aspect, then let's talk it out. Let's sort it out. Because I think at the end of the day, that's how we get to figure out where our perspectives come from, where they're derived from, and how we can better figure out why we might have these ways of thinking. And like I say, as we're thinking on the fly and trying to problem solve on the fly, like I say, it's a much easier way, and other people that are watching, to see them, okay, this is how you do it, right? Rather than, just insulting someone I see as my political opponent, or trying to cancel them. Maybe we should talk about it. Maybe we might find out at some point in time that actually we agree a whole lot more on things than we definitely disagree on. And if we can do that, then maybe we can find some ways to show, by leading by example, that it's easy for people who even have massive disagreements to come together under the umbrella of just, hey, we don't have to agree on everything. We just got to agree to a very finite and limited amount of rules of engagement for when we're out there dealing with each other socially, economically, which are quite simple, and most of us do every day as it is. Most of us deal with people every day without exception, using the non-aggression as the basis for those interactions, where we're not using preemptive force or violence or stealing from each other. We're just out there using voluntary means, interactions, and engagements as a way to, like I say, discuss very important topics, or to cooperate, or even when we're in competitive ventures together. So thanks again for all you folks that join the stream. I'll see you in the next one, which will be tomorrow at, like I say, 12 o'clock Eastern time. That'll be 1 o'clock Atlantic time. And you figure out for the rest of your time zones, depending on whichever one you're at. But like I say, thanks. It'll be a great conversation about another contentious issue, and I'm really looking forward to it. So have a great day. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.